Jai Jinendra, everyone, and Michami Dukram. Welcome back to our Jain introduction to Jain lessons. And after returning from a hopefully peaceful paryushan, Michami Dukram to everyone. And also I'd like to welcome any new students that have joined us today. I'd like to introduce to those that don't know Ajitbhai, who will be taking our classes. Today's class and the class for the next few months will be on the Kalpa Sutra, which will be very interesting, especially after paryushan and listening to the vachans during paryushan as well. If you've got any a pen and paper, it'll be very good for you guys to take some notes if you'd like. But I will hand over to Ajitbhai now. Thank you.
Thank you, Meera. Pranam, Jai Jinendra to everybody. I hope you all had a very spiritually uplifting and peaceful paryushan. And I'm sure many of you on this class may have done some tap and taken part in a lot of the other activities. And I'm sure some of you have probably also taken the opportunity to listen to the Kalpa Sutra during the paryushan. Maybe if not be able to attend all the 8 days, you may have been able to log in and listen to some of the pravachans on Kalpa Sutra. We will start off as usual with the pratna, and then I will just recap on what our previous topic was, and then start off with the current topic, and I'll give you more details as we go along. First of all, Michami Dukadam to everybody. If I've, during the past year, in our online community and those of you who we have met in person, if I've said anything that may have hurt you, or I've thought anything that may have been ungenerous, to any one of you. I sincerely apologize, Michhami Dukadam, and I hope that the lessons of paryushan stay with us. And one of the reasons for starting on this topic of Kalpa Sutra is that I'm hoping that the text that is recited on an annual basis is something that we are so familiar with that we get more and more out of it during paryushan on an annual basis. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabve Simpadamam Havai Mangalam. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabve Simpadamam Havai Mangalam. Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Ayariyanam, Namo Ujjayanam, Namo Loe Sabba Sahunam. Eso Panchanamukaro Sabba Pavapanasano, Mangalanancha Sabve Simpadamam Havai Mangalam. Veera Sarasura Surendra Mahito Veerambuda Sansrita Veerena Viyata Swakarma Nichayo Veeraya Nityam Nama Veera Tirthamidam Prautmatulam Veerashagoram Tapo Veere Sri Truti Kirtikanti Nichaya Sri Veerabhadram Disa Mangalam Bhagwan Veero Mangalam Gautama Prabhu Mangalam Stuli Bhadradya Jain Dharmostu Mangalam. Just to remind everybody, the format of this lessons, classes is that we try and understand what dharma is teaching us. So we learn through a process and ultimately try and reach an outcome. We listen, we reflect, we debate, we question. You have the ability to switch on your mic and your video, and I would be very happy if more of you were able to do that and participate actively. Whatever we learn, we try and internalize it, because the whole purpose of learning dharma is to apply it to our thinking, our speech, our actions, to internalize it, because the process ultimately improves us as people, improves the state of our soul. And that is the whole purpose of listening to religious or trying to learn about dharma, religion, and ultimately incorporate whatever we have learned as much as we can into our lives. The Kalpa Sutra is a word that I don't think there is any Jain who has not heard of it. In the past, we were taught that if somebody asked you which particular holy book do you have, then people felt that Kalpa Sutra was the text to quote, that is our holy book. Kalpa Sutra by far is probably the most well-known Shastra that we have, and it is the sutra and the text in its brief format is recited on an annual basis by in all Jain sanghs when paryushan is being celebrated. So this has become a standard protocol for the festivities, for the celebrations and the spiritual activity during paryushan, and a lot of different beautiful texts of Kalpa Sutra, incorporating very many different kinds of um, images, paintings were produced, and you may find many different uh, very old versions of them in libraries around the world. I've just extracted some information from Wikipedia. So this particular image that you see on the right hand side is a detail of a leaf with the which depicts the birth of Bhagwan Mahavir, the 24th Tirthankar from the Kalpa Sutra, circa 1375 to 1400. It's a Wikipedia entry. If you uh, Google Kalpa Sutra, there is a lot of other information there as well. Again, this description from Wikipedia is the Kalpa Sutra is a Jain text containing the biographies of Jain Tirthankars, notably Bhagwan Mahavir and Bhagwan Parshnath, and traditionally ascribed to Bhadrabhu. So, as we all know, Swami was the creator of Kalpa Sutra, and so it was produced around the 4th century BC, and it was put in writing probably about 980 years after the Nirvana of Bhagwan Mahavir. I'm hoping that we carry on with this particular subject matter for the next few months. Now, and I know that some of you may still want to hear more about our last topic, which was Bharesar Sajjai, and we did start off with the hope that we would recite the illustrations, the texts on the 100 different virtuous men and women of Muni Bhagwans and Sadhviji Bhagwans and Satis that are recited and remembered on a daily basis on in the Bharesar Sajjai. And we went up to the stories of Kalikacharya, and the last class before we um, stopped before Paryushan was on the third Kalikacharya, and I will again remember him today because his story has got some relevance to the information that we will share regarding the Kalpa Sutra. Now, there is still a lot that we haven't heard as far as the Bharesar Sajjai is concerned. Maybe sometime in the future we may pick that up again. But I thought that this was necessary, particularly at this time. I've been meaning to talk about Kalpa Sutra during one of these classes on a regular basis for some time. And this year, on my discussion with Sandeep Bhai, I thought that this might be the most appropriate subject. And I hope you all agree and enjoy and learn a lot from this. I'll be using two particular sources for the details that we'll be talking about. The first one is the book that we would normally refer to, and it's in Gujarati, and Shravaks and would be able to recite that in front of the Sangh, and we use that book. The original text of the Kalpa Sutra is not something that Shravaks are authorized to read, and that is normally only read by Muni Bhagwans. But we use this particular text is called the Sri Astanika Kalpa Subodhika. it's a Gujarati book, and I'm sure there are Hindi versions of it. And part of this text is something that a well-known German Jain scholar called Hermann Jacobi has written a particular commentary on the Vinay Vijay Krut Kalpa Sutra Subodhika. So this Sri Ashtanika Kalpa Subodhika is a combination of two separate texts. So the commentary by Hermann Jacobi, who spent a long time in Jain libraries, is a German scholar, probably late 19th, early 20th century. I'm not sure of the exact days, of the exact dates. But he has written a commentary, and some of the material or in the preface to the second book that I'll be talking about, his particular commentary is commented upon by the author. So the Ashtanika Kalpa Subodhika in Gujarati is a combination of the translations of two texts. The first one is a translation of the Ashtanika Subodhika of Param Pujya Acharya Sri Vijay Lakshmi Suriswarji, and the second part, so that refers to the Kalpa part. Second one is the translation of the Kalpa Sutra Subodhika, which was written by Param Pujya Upadhyaya Sri Vinay Vijayji. And this was compiled in the current format that is used by many Sanghs for the Paryushan Vyakhyan series by a scholar called Sarabhai Manilal Nawab. And this particular text, which is actually, I don't know if you can see it, but the way it is actually formatted is this way. So it makes it easy to read when you're sitting down in some mic and reading this, the book placed on a sapro. And I'm sure most of you are familiar with all this, but just for those who may be completely new to this, I'm including this part. The other text that I'll be using is a text that's been around for a long time. And this is where the reference to Hermann Jacobi comes in as well. It's again in Gujarati. And it's called Kalpa Sutra Katha Sar. That means it is the essence of the various sections of the Kalpa Sutra in sort of a katha format, and it's been compiled by a well-known scholar called Sunanda Ben Vora and published by Jain Prakashan Mandir. Again, you may have seen several versions of this. I'm not sure that there is a Gujarati translation of this, but I think there are English translations of the Kalpa Sutra, which I'll try and find. There are ancient texts that I've come across in English, which are available in the sort of a free library format as PDFs, which if you feel so inclined, you may want to download and maybe try and read. But some of these texts were written many, many years ago, and the language may be quite difficult for us to grasp, even the English version of it. Okay. Now, just stepping away a bit from the Kalpa Sutra, just something about the 8-day festival of Paryushan that we have just finished. This slide is talking about this, and a couple of the subsequent slides is talking about what is included in the pravachans of that we hear during the paryushan. But just to remind ourselves that paryushan is one of the 6 Olis that Jains celebrate. Paryushan is not saswat. By saswat, we mean that which is permanent, that it's always been and will always be. The 2 Aimbil Olis, so the 9-day festival of Siddh Chakra and Aimbil, the next one is coming in October. These 2 festivals are Saswat, meaning that they are permanent, and they are celebrated by all Jains and all Devs on a regular basis twice a year. So these are called the Atthais. Paryushan is one of the Atthais, but it is not Saswat. So the celebration of Paryushan is something that is recent in our times. So during the 8-day festival of Paryushan, the first 3 pravachans are dedicated. So the first 3 days are dedicated to the following subjects. So the Ashtanika pravachans on the first 3 days remind us on an annual basis of these essential elements that as Jains we should all know, understand, and focus on. You all must have heard about the 5 kartavyas of Jains during Paryushan. And just to remind ourselves again that those are: 1, the kartavya of non-violence or amari pravartan, meaning that we ensure that our lives in those 8 days has the least amount of violence, and that we promote the all non-violent activities and avoid all violent activities during those 8 days. Ideally, a Shravak and Shravika is encouraged to spend those 8 days in Paushad, meaning to live during those 8 days like a monk. But for most of us, that is not possible. So we try and do as much as we can to follow these 5 kartavyas. So Amari Pravartan is 1. The second kartavya or the second task is Sadharmik Vatsalya, meaning we... Okay, Darshana, you raised your hand. Go on.
My question was, you said pollution's not always been around, it's not permanent. Why was it introduced?
I'm not sure exactly when it came into being. The way the description is that it's not saswat, meaning that it's not permanent. So there are, the Kalpa Sutra mentions 6 atthais, and the Ambil Odi are permanent, but the festivities are so. The first Atthai is in Chaitra Mas, the second is in Ashad Mas, the third is in relation to Paryushan, the fourth is in Aso Mas. So the Chaitra and Aso Mas Atthai are the Ambil Olis, so those are permanent. The fifth one is called, it's in the Kartak Mas, and the sixth is in the Phagan Mas. Now, the 2 out of this 6 are Saswati, meaning they are permanent. And according to the Uttradhyan Sutra, a commentary on that illustrates this. The 3 other attais during the monsoon months, including in addition to the paryushan attai, because they are related to the birth, the diksha, the keval, and the nirvana kalyanak of the Tirthankar Bhagwans, they are asaswat. So they are the and this sort of in various days when the Tirthankar Bhagwans are born, because they change with every Chovisi, so they are not permanent. So exactly when this particular paryushan attai came into being, I'm not sure. But if I get the answer, I will come back and explain that to you. Okay.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, so when the next like 24 Tirthankars come in, there'll be a different paryushan date.
There may be, yes. And then there may be different festivals, but the 2 festivals of Ambel Oli, those 9 days festival, those are present in every place, every kshetra where Jain Dharma is prevalent. So everywhere where people follow Jainism, those 2 Olis remain Saswat.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So the second kartavya is sadharmik vatsalya, meaning you look after the welfare of those who follow the same path as you. Sadharmik means saman dharmavada. So those who believe in or those who follow the teachings of Bhagwan Mahavir are your sadharmik. So you look after them, you look after their welfare, you try and understand if they have any difficulties, and you quietly, silently, without embarrassing them, try and help them as much as you can. And a lot of us sort of fulfill that obligation. So these 5 essential obligations or kartavyas of Jains, we fulfill the second kartavya by sharing a meal or contributing to the sadharmic bhakti that we do on a joint basis that we had just on the Sunday that just gone. The third kartavya during paryushan, which is absolutely essential as well, is paraspar kshamapna, meaning we ask for forgiveness from each other, particularly those people that we may have had some acrimonious dealings with, and particularly this happens with those we live close to. So all our immediate family members, our spouses, our children. So this kinds of very close relationships, our parents, those connections often give rise to many different incidents where we may hurt each other. So again, to remind ourselves that ultimately we are all under the control of our karmas, and to not dislike or hate anybody, and to try and forgive and forget any particular hurt that somebody else may have caused us, but also to become humble enough to go to somebody and say, look, I was wrong with what I said to you then or I did then, please forgive me. And that is something that is absolutely essential. And this particular kartavya is emphasized very, very strongly in all the kartavyas during paryushan. And this essential must-dos has got a lot of stories attached to this. What is the best way of doing this? And ideally, I mean, we ask for forgiveness. We say Michami Dukdam at the end of Paryushan. But ideally, we should start our Paryushan festival with on the day before or the first day, we should start with a very clear, clean mind, having forgiven uh, everybody and ask for forgiveness for anybody that we may have hurt. And ultimately, by the end of the uh, seventh day, on the eighth day, which is the Savansari Parva, we should have absolutely clearly cleared our uh, any feelings of enmity, of anger, and anything that we may have um, upset anybody about, we should have already asked for forgiveness. The fourth kartavya is Atham Tap, meaning fasting for 3 days in a row. That is called Atham. But many of us who are unable to fast for all 3 days together may do it separately, one day at a time. If you are unable to do total fast like an upvas, then we may do chha ambil, meaning 6 ambils instead, or we may do 12 ekasanas, meaning eating only once, or we may do 24 bhyasanas, meaning eating twice in a day, or we may be unable to remain hungry at all. Then the alternative is to do to do 20 malas of Naukar mantra. So one mala would be 108 Naukar mantra, and recite this. So that is equivalent to one upvas. So then the equivalent of 3 upvas would be 60 Badi mala. And the fifth kartavya is what is called as Chaitya Paripati, meaning that we visit the at least 5 temples around where we live, or 5 temples, meaning 5 Jain temples. And that is a particular kartavya that a lot of sanghs organize. And I think the Oshwal Chaitya Paripati is being organized with a visit to Leicester, I think in a couple of weeks' time. Now, the pravachans are dedicated to the following 3 subjects on the first 3 days. So the 5 essential kartavyas that I just mentioned. The second part is the annual 11 essential do's for Jains. That is also described in the Ashtanika pravachans, and the second day is generally spent with the recitation and understanding this 11 kartavyas that a Shravak and a Shravika must try and do during the year. And the third section is on the importance of Paushad Vrat and the particular description of this Paushad Vrat and its importance is illustrated with a lot of detailed story about the spiritual pursuit of King Udayi, who was the last Rajarshi. So he was the last king who took Diksha from Bhagwan Mahavir, and as a result of his sadhana, he went to moksha. After King Udayi, no other person who was who would be a king would have become a monk. So if you remember, we mentioned this in the story of Abhay Kumar when we were talking about the Bharesar Sajjai. So Abhay Kumar was very keen to become a monk. So Abhay Kumar was the chief minister of King Shrenik, who was the great king of Magad. He was the chief minister and also the son of King Shrenik, and because of his great intellect, he actually became the chief minister at a very, very young age. And Abhay Kumar carried on with his duties as the chief minister, but he wasn't really interested in staying in Sansar, and he wanted to become a monk. And he engineers his exit from the responsibilities in such a way that King Shrenik, in a particular episode of being upset with Abhay Kumar, does not actually decides that he can leave. And Abhay Kumar then, also having heard from Bhagwan Mahavir that the last king who would become a monk would be King Udayi. So Abhay Kumar was determined that he would not become a king. And Abhay Kumar therefore left as the chief minister. King Shrenik's son, Konik, became the king after King Shrenik on the throne of Magad. But Konik's life and his history is quite disturbing, and maybe at some stage we will hear about that. There is reference to Konik, I think, in the Kalpa Sutra as well. So these are the first 3 days pravachans. From the 4th day, the Kalpa Sutra reading begins, and there are a total of 9 vyakhyans that are read over the 4 days. On the 8th day, the whole 1200 plus sutras of the Kalpa Sutra are read out by Muni Bhagwans, called Barsa Sutra. What we do here and in a lot of other sanghs around the world, we obviously do not have, and even where there are Muni Bhagwans, Sadhu Bhagwans, I'm not sure that the Barsa Sutra is read in full on the 8th day. But what we normally do here is during the paryushan, we normally only do 1 reading each day rather than the 2 that is traditional. And we abridge the content of the text significantly. So there is a lot that is included in the Kalpa Sutra, but we just normally recite only a small part of it because our times are limited. We are very structured with how much time we can spend. So we have to skip a lot of the material that is also extremely interesting. And some chapters that are included in the pravachans are skipped completely. So I've not personally heard reference to those chapters for a long time. But in Nairobi and even in this country, many years ago, people used to have 2 vachanas or 2 pravachans on a daily basis, 1 in the morning and 1 in the afternoon during all the 8 days of paryushan, well, except the 8th day. So all the 7 days, on the 8th day, the reading of the Barsa Sutra. On the 8th day, the contents of the Kalpa Sutra are shared in a pictorial format with abridged Gujarati verses. So some of you might remember that before we had all this available on our database, and we had Dilip Bhai, who has formatted this beautifully, and he shares the screen with us, and each image that of the content of the Kalpa Sutra in a pictorial format is shared with us. But previously, we used to actually have people hold up that particular large painting and move around among the audience one by one. And I think one of our Shravika Bens, I think Varsha Ben, has got the whole picture content with her, and we used to share it like that. Now, the history of the Kalpa Sutra. Bhadrabhav Swami is the author of Kalpa Sutra. We all know, and we've heard this during the story of Bhadrabhav Swami in the recitation of the Paryushan Sajjai. But he was the last person in our current times to have the full knowledge of the 14 Purvas. Therefore, he was called Shrut Kevali. Kevali meaning somebody who knows everything, but this was not extrasensory knowledge, not the Keval Gnan that only develops after we've got rid of all the Kati karmas. But he had the knowledge of the total body of Shrut Gnan. Therefore, he was called Shrut Kevali. He is the author of Kalpa Sutra. So in terms of authenticity and in terms of the material that is included in this, we've got an extremely valuable source. Kalpa Sutra was written as the 8th section of the part called Dasasrut Skand of the 9th Purva, called Pratyakhyan Pravad. Pratyakhyan Pravad is the 9th Purva out of the 14 Purvas. A part of that is called Dasasrut Skand, and a section of that is Kalpa Sutra. So the Kalpa Sutra text actually forms a very small part of the 9th Purva, and as we have remembered previously, that the knowledge of the 14 Purvas has disappeared after Bhadrabhav Swami. He taught Stulibhadra, whose story we also heard, the 14 Purvas at the request of the Jain Sangh at the time. But because of a problem that we have all heard about in the previous classes, he stopped teaching him the meanings after the 10th Purva, because he thought that the times were not right and people could not digest the full knowledge of the 14 Purvas. Darshana, you raised your hand again.
What is the meaning of Purva?
Okay. I think we will discuss what is contained in the 14 Purvas. Purva is a large body of knowledge, and the 14 Purvas are a huge amount of knowledge that nobody currently would have the capacity to actually learn or absorb. And as we know, Stulibhadra had learned that exactly what is contained in the 14 Purvas. It is actually illustrated in a way as to how much ink you would need to write the 14 Purvas. And we will come to that at some time in the future classes in this particular topic as well. So if we park that for the time being, we will come to that part of what is contained in the Purva, and not all the details, obviously, because we don't know the Purvas, but the illustration of how much ink you would need to actually write the Purvas is an illustration of the amount of knowledge that is contained in that. But the Purvas, I'm glad you asked this question now, the 14 Purvas are a part of the 12th Ang, which is called Drashtivad, and the 14 Purvas are a part of the 12th Ang called Drashtivad. Now, all the Gandhar Bhagwans format the 12 Angs, or Dwad Sangi as it is called, once they have received the knowledge from the Tirthankar Bhagwant, they each form their own Dwad Sangi, means the 12 Angs. Out of those 12 Angs, the 12th Ang, which is called Drashtivad, is the source of all the 14 Purvas. So the previous 11 Angs are separate, and the 12th Ang contains the full knowledge of the 14 Purvas, and the 14 Purvas are a part of the 12th Ang called Drashtivad. So the Drashtivad Purva contains the 14, the Drashtivad Ang contains the 14 Purvas. Kalpa Sutra was written as the 8th section of the part called the Sasrit Skand of the 9th Purva called Pratyakhan Pravad. And there have been several translations and commentaries on this original text. Now, Rashmita, yeah, go on. If you can unmute yourself, Rashmita. You raised your hand.
You mentioned Ong just now. Is that the 12th Ong? Is it like 12 chapters in a book or something?
No. Dwad Sangi, 12 Angs. So this is the total body of knowledge that can be taught, and this is what is created by the Gandhar Bhagwans. Now, the way a Tirthankar Paramatma gives the knowledge to the appropriate person who has the capacity to actually absorb that knowledge and actually create the sastras from what has been given to them, goes like this. And I think I've recited this before. At the time when a Tirthankar Paramatma acquires Keval Gnan, during the first desna, when the Sangh is established, the most appropriate people who become monks at the time are given what is called Tripadi. And on the basis of that Tripadi, each Ganadhar Bhagwant then creates the Dwad Sangi, that is the 12 Angs. Now, the Tripadi is just 3 phrases. So a Gandhar Paramatma asks the Tirthankar Paramatma, once they have been initiated, ki bante kim tattvam, meaning Bhagwan, what is the truth, or what is the nature of everything, of the universe? So the Tirthankar Paramatma would say Upaneiva, meaning that things appear or are created. So they listen to that, digest, then another question turns up. So they ask, Bhante kim tattvam? So the Gandhar Bhagwan, so Gautam Swami would have asked these questions, Bhante kim tattvam? And the Tirthankar Paramatma, one after the other question, would recite these 3 phrases, Upaneiva, Vigamveiva, Duveiva. Upaneiva means it is, things are created. Vigamveiva meaning they disappear or they change format. And Duveiva meaning that the fundamental dravya or the fundamental element remains there permanently. And on the basis of that particular knowledge, all the Gandhar Bhagwans are the possessors of what is called Bij Buddhi, meaning that in those 3 verses, they would understand the whole total knowledge, and this includes everything that we know today and much, 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 much more of knowledge that we do not have that's actually gone. And they create the 12 angs out of that, and out of those 12 angs, the Drashtivadang, the last ang, contains the total body of the 14 purvas.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So previously on the Sukla Pancham of the month of Bhadrava, so 5th day of the ascending half of the lunar month, after the Savansari Pratikraman, one appropriately suitable qualified Muni Bhagwan would recite the sutra while standing, and the rest of the Muni Bhagwans would stand in Kausag and listen to the recitation. This was the format of how the Kalpa Sutra recitation happened at the end of paryushan, but on the day of the Savansari, which was held on the 5th day of the month of Bhadrava, of the ascending cycle. So Bhadrava Sud Pancham. That was when it was recited only by a monk and listened to by the other monks. 980 years, sorry, I've forgotten the word years here. After the Nirvana of Bhagwan Mahavir, the recitation of the Kalpa Sutra in the general population began. This was initiated by a learned Acharya Bhagwant to console the king of Anandpur, who had just lost his young son unexpectedly. So the king's son had died, and he was completely drowned in his sorrow and of the loss of his young son, and he was very, very sad. So this Acharya Bhagwant thought that the best way to relieve his sadness and to join him in the path of the right dharma, listening to the Kalpa Sutra would be of benefit. And it is then, about 980 years after the Nirvana of Bhagwan Mahavir, the recitation of the Kalpa Sutra in the general population began. The day of the Savansari used to be the Bhadrava Sud Pancham, that was changed to Bhadrava Sud Choth by Kalikacharya, one of the three that we heard about when we ended the talks on Bharesa Sajai. And this was done at the request of King Salivahan, who said that on the 5th day of that month, they had another festival called Indro Utsav, and the population would be engaged with that and not to conflict with that, so that people could engage in the festivities of the Savansari Parva. This learned Acharya changed the day to the 4th day of the month of Bhadrava. Now, this is the last slide, and I haven't completed that, but I will just talk to you about that, and we'll have some question and answers towards the end. And we'll carry on with this particular contents of what does it contain. So, but in brief, the Kalpa Sutra contains a huge body of knowledge. The word kalp means achar. Achar means conduct. And it relates to the conduct of Muni Bhagwans and the rules that govern their conduct and how those rules change in the times of the different Tirthankars and the reasons for those changes, and the difference between how monks in the times of the first and the last Tirthankar are governed by, and the rules by which the Muni Bhagwans of the middle 22 Tirthankar Bhagwans are governed by, and the reasons for this. So that particular part is what is being referred to here when you're saying about Kalpa Sutra. Kalpa means achar. Achar means the code of conduct. But it also illustrates the life story of Bhagwan Mahavir in great detail, including the 5 Kalyanaks of Chavan, Janma, Diksha, Kevalgnan, and Nirvan, and also, in brief, the description of the 27 previous lives, 27 of the major lives. There are minor lives which are not sort of dwelled upon in all the descriptions, but these 27 major lives of Bhagwan Mahavir prior to this birth as Bhagwan Mahavir are also recited. So this progress of his soul from the time of when the counting begins of his first life as Nandivardhan, sorry, not Nandivardhan, Naisar. So the first life as Naisar, when he acquires or achieves Samyaktva, the progress of his spiritual progress starts then and then carries on. But the 27 lives in detail describe the ups and downs, the rise and the fall, and the reasons why Bhagwan Mahavir then spends a long time in different lives, and spends a long time also when he doesn't actually come in contact with Jain Dharma or Paramatmana Dharma, and the reasons behind all that. So that is described in detail. Then we have the story of Bhagwan Parshanath in slightly less detail, and the 10, his previous 10 lives are also sort of referred to there. Then we have the story of all the other Tirthankars in brief, but the story of Bhagwan Nemnath and the story of Bhagwan Adishwar, the first Tirthankar, is given in a bit more detail. So the details of the conduct of Sadhu Bhagwans, Kalp, the details of the lives of our great Tirthankar Paramatmas in the current time cycle that we are in, and also the detail of the what is called the Staviravali. Staviravali is the lineage following Bhagwan Mahavir's Nirvana, as to who are the different acharyas who followed Bhagwan Mahavir, and their stories are given in brief. So if you look at Bhadrabhahu Swami, after Bhagwan Mahavir, Bhadrabhahu Swami was the 6th Stavir, meaning he was the 6th in the lineage. So in terms of the leadership of the Tirth of the Sangh, Bhagwan Mahavir was followed by Sudharma Swami, who was one of his 11 Ganadhars. And the reason why Sudharma Swami took on the mantle was because he was the longest lived of the 11th Ganadhars. And then we had Jambu Swami, and then Prabhu Swami, and a lot of those stories of Jambu Swami, Prabhu Swami are extremely interesting as well, and we'll come to those stories during the course of the this particular discussion on this particular topic. So Bhadrabhahu Swami was the sixth. His Gotra was called Prachin. Gotra means the particular atak or nook, Gotra. And there is a reference here that there are some different versions. So the exact details have been lost at some stage with respect to the lineage of Bhadrabhahu Swami. But the fact is that 170 years after the nirvana of Bhagwan Mahavir, Bhadrabhahu Swami went to Swarg. So his life ended 170 years after Bhagwan Mahavir's nirvana. So the creator of Kalpa Sutra, Bhadrabhahu Swami, is the person that we have heard a lot about. Just to remind ourselves that he was also the creator of Uvasagaram Stotra, that we've heard about elsewhere as well. So over the next few weeks, we will go through the details of what is included in the Kalpa Sutra and the Asthanika Pravachan. We will probably not focus on the pravachans of the first 3 days in much more detail than what I have shared today, but we will hopefully dive straight into the main pravachans that start with the recitation of the Kalpa Sutra and what is included in that. Again, even though we read this during paryushan and even where they are read in completion, there is still a huge amount of information to understand and to digest. But it is extremely important. It is said and described regularly that anybody who listens to the Kalpa Sutra with total attention and with the right vidhi 21 times is guaranteed to go to moksha within 8 lives subsequently. Now, the ask obviously is how much faith and attention and sadhana you actually listen to the Kalpa Sutra with. So for most of us, that probably doesn't apply. But the importance of listening to the Kalpa Sutra on a regular basis is extremely well described and promoted everywhere, and most of all our Muni Bhagwans would remind us of that, and we are reminded of this on an annual basis during paryushan. So I will end here and I'll open up for any other questions that may be there. If I've said anything that is, if I've made any mistakes, and if I've inadvertently sort of mispronounced something or mixed up something, please accept my apologies. જે કાંઈ પણ વિતરાગની આજ્ઞા વિરુદ્ધ બોલ્યું હોય, વિચાર્યું હોય, કહેવાયું હોય, તે સૌએ મનોવચન કાય કરી તસ્મિચ્છામિ દુક્કડમ. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and you can open up and switch on your videos if you like. There are about 42 of us, so I'm sure we've got enough bandwidth to at least have some people switching their videos on. It helps me as well to see whom I'm talking to, so please help me as well. Any questions? Pratibha Ben, bolo.
I have unmuted, yeah. જે મોક્ષે જાય એને તીર્થંકરના દર્શન કરવા જ એના ઓટોમેટિક થાય બીકોઝ દે આર એ લોકોની લાયકાત થઈ ગઈ હોય.
હમ
એટલે આ બધા ગંધર્વો ને જે બધા કેવડીઓને દીક્ષા છેલ્લે મહાવીર ભગવાનની જ વાત કરીએ. મહાવીર ભગવાન પાસે જેણે દીક્ષા લીધી ને એ લોકો મહાવીરને મળ્યા.
હા.
તો what about જંબુ સ્વામી જે છેલ્લા મુક્તિ ગયા એ મહાવીરના સંઘમાં હશે, નાના
હા,
હશે
હા.
ત્યારે, કે દીક્ષા
પણ
એમને લીધી હશે?
મોક્ષ માર્ગ ખુલ્લો હતો પ્રતિભાબેન. I will answer in Gujarati because I think most of
હા હા
people understand. મોક્ષ માર્ગ ભગવાને તીર્થની સ્થાપના કરી ત્યારે અમુક વર્ષો સુધી ભગવાન મહાવીરના નિર્વાણ પછી મોક્ષ માર્ગ ખુલ્લો હતો.
હા
અને સુધર્મા સ્વામી પાસેથી જંબુ સ્વામીએ દીક્ષા લીધી અને સાધના કરી અને અંતિમ કેવલી થયા. અને શ્રી ઋષભદેવ ભગવાન ને અજિતનાથ ભગવાનના સમયની વચ્ચે
ઋષભ અને
મોક્ષ
અજીત.
માર્ગ,
હા
ઋષભદેવ ભગવાન અને અજિતનાથ ભગવાનના સમય એ બંનેની વચ્ચે એકદમ લાંબો સમય હતો.
હા
ને
of
એ
course.
દરમિયાન ઋષભદેવ ભગવાન હયાત નહોતા, અજિતનાથ ભગવાનનો હજી જન્મ નહોતો થયો, પણ મોક્ષ માર્ગ ખુલ્લો હતો. એટલે કોઈ પણ કેવલી ભગવંત કે કોઈ પણ સાધુ ભગવાન સાધના કરી પોતાના કર્મનો ક્ષય કરી અને મોક્ષે જાય, તીર્થંકર પરમાત્માની હાજરી હોવી જ જોઈએ એવો કોઈ નિયમ નથી.
ઓકે.
ઓકે.
ઓકે. મેં મારું રીડિંગ એટલે એવી રીતે હતું કે તીર્થંકરની હાજરી હોય છેલ્લે એના દર્શનથી જ પછી મોક્ષે
ના,
જવું.
એવું નથી. પણ આપણે અત્યારે જે વાત કરીએ કે સિમંદર સ્વામી મહાવિદ્ય ક્ષેત્રમાં છે, અત્યારે મોક્ષના દરવાજા ત્યાંથી જ ખુલ્લા છે. પણ ત્યાં મહાવિદ્ય ક્ષેત્રની અંદર પણ બે તીર્થંકરના વખતની વચ્ચે પણ મોક્ષ માર્ગ ખુલ્લો હોય. હવે સિમંદર સ્વામી અને અત્યારે જે હયાત બધા 20 તીર્થંકર પરમાત્માઓ છે મહાવિદ્ય ક્ષેત્રમાં, એ બધાનો જન્મ લગભગ કુંથુનાથ, આપણા કુંથુનાથ ભગવાન હતા 17માં, અરાઉન્ડ ધેટ ટાઈમ કુંથુનાથ અરનાથ એ ટાઈમથી એ બધા હયાત છે.
ઓકે. હા, એટલે એ
હા,
સમજણ પડી ગઈ. તો
હા,
એટલે પણ મહાવિદ્ય ક્ષેત્રમાંથી તો કાયમ
હા.
મોક્ષમાં
ત્યાં કાયમ મોક્ષના દરવાજા ખુલ્લા છે.
ભરત
એટલે
ક્ષેત્રમાં ખાલી
હા,
સતયુગમાં જ. ઓકે.
હા. એટલે તીર્થંકર પરમાત્માની, તમારો જે સવાલ હતો કે તીર્થંકરની પરમાત્માની હાજરી હોય
હાજરી,
ત્યારે
હા.
જ મોક્ષે જવાય, એવું નથી.
નથી. ઓકે. એટલે સ્થૂલીભદ્ર હતા ત્યારે જંબુ સ્વામી એમની હાજરીમાં દીક્ષા લીધી હતી એમ તમે?
ના, સ્થુલીભદ્ર તો ઘણો વખત પછી. ભદ્રભાવ સ્વામી,
સોરી, ભદ્રબાહુ
ના,
સ્વામી.
ભદ્રભાવ સ્વામી ત્યાર પછી. ભદ્રભાવ સ્વામી તો શ્રુત કેવલી હતા. ત્યાર પછી ત્યારે મોક્ષના ત્યારથી કોઈ મોક્ષના દરવાજા બંધ હતા. પણ જંબુ સ્વામી એ સૌથી અંતિમ કેવલી હતા. એમના પછી કોઈ મોક્ષમાં નથી ગયું.
હા, એટલે આપણામાં કે ને મરુદેવી પેલા, માતા
હા,
મરુદેવી અને
હા.
જંબુ સ્વામી સૌથી છેલ્લા.
છેલ્લા.
ઓકે.
હા, બરાબર
થેન્ક
છે.
યુ.
ઓકે.
થેન્ક યુ.
Any other questions?
Darshana has a question.
Sorry.
I've got a question, Ajitbhai. It's more a challenging question to you. So just now you said those that recite the Kalpa Sutra, listen to the Kalpa Sutra and do the right rituals 21 times, go to moksha within 8 lives.
Yeah.
But have we not said the doors to moksha are closed for a very long time?
Within 8 lives, meaning not in this life, subsequent lives. Yeah. So the doors to moksha are closed from this particular part of the universe, which is called Bharat Kshetra. And these times cycles change in all the Bharat and the Airavat Kshetras. So there are 5 Bharat and 5 Airavat Kshetras. but the time cycle does not change in the Mahavidya Kshetras. So the doors to moksha are open from there. There is no restriction for us to be born in any part of the universe. So once we pass away according to our karmas, we'll be born in anywhere. And our Shastras also say that there is no place in the universe where we have not actually been born or died. So we've been around for infinite time in the past. So, but these are illustrations of, and I'm sure Kevali Bhagwan would be able to give us absolute examples of when this has happened, of somebody having listened to the Kalpa Sutra or something similar 21 times. But these are an illustration of the kind of spiritual upliftment and spiritual awakening that can happen as a result of listening to, incorporating it in ourselves and changing ourselves. So when this is recited 21 times, it is assumed that it would also, so we are not just listening without engagement, that inevitably changes us. So every time, and you will notice this if you listen to the Kalpa Sutra on an annual basis, that half an hour or an hour, if you are listening intently to even the Gujarati translation that is there, it actually sets off a series of thoughts and awareness in your heart that invariably influences a change in you. So the power of this is felt by most of us who listen to it. So you wouldn't actually come out of a recitation of the Kalpa Sutra with a complete blank. You would actually come out of that, and those of us who experience that on an annual basis would understand that there is power there. So this is an illustration of what power is hidden within this text and what we listen to.
And is there a translation in English? Because I don't fully understand the Gujarati translations.
Yeah. My worry is that you may find it even more difficult with the English translation, some of them, but I'm searching for that, and I'm aware that is an ancient text. Exactly who is translated it. My recommendation would be that you read a translation that's been done by somebody who has the faith in their heart. A scholarly translation does not necessarily give you do the justice to this particular text, but I will see what I can find, and I will share that with all of you. Yeah. Hope that helps. Anybody else? Okay. We are 5 minutes over. So when if you probably noticed that you extended the time from 8 to 9, from 8 to 9 to 9:15, I hope most of you don't mind. I can still see 40 of you logged in. So thank you for that. If there is any burning question, I'm happy to take any. Okay.
સોરી, પાછો એક પ્રશ્ન છે. પર્યુષણનું તમે જે કહ્યું કે એ શાશ્વત નથી ને આંબેલનું શાશ્વત છે, એ મને થોડીક ખબર છે, પણ એમાંથી પ્રશ્ન શું ઉભો થયો કે પર્યુષણ તમે જે કોઈ પૂછ્યું હતું એનું ત્યારે તમને, એટલે મને એમ હતું કે તમે મને કીધું સાચું છે સમજણ ખોટી, કારણ કે ઘણા બધા જે ભગવાન મહાવીર પછી જુદા જુદા પંથ થયા, અચળગઢ ને બીજા બધા ટાઈમિંગ જુદા હોય છે પર્યુષણ થવાના.
હા
તો એને લીધે શાશ્વત ના કહેવાય ને આંબેલનો સમય બધાનો એક જ આવે.
એટલે
એનું
આમાં જે
કારણ
પર્યુષણના જે ચેન્જીસ થાય છે એ જે મને એના બારામાં બહુ વિગતવાર જ્ઞાન નથી ને મને સમજાતું પણ નથી ઘણી વાર કે જ્યોતિષ શાસ્ત્ર પ્રમાણે જે મહિનાનો અધિક માસ ને ઓછો માસ ને ફોર એક્ઝામ્પલ આ વર્ષે ઘણા એ પર્યુષણ ઓગસ્ટમાં ઉજવ્યા હતા ઘણી જગ્યાએ.
અચળગઢ જે પંથ હતો ને, મારી બોમ્બે થી ફ્રેન્ડે મને કમાવાનો મેસેજ કર્યો હતો.
હા અને આપણે સપ્ટેમ્બરમાં અહીંયા ઉજવ્યા પર્યુષણ અને એમાં એ તારીખમાં અમુક ફરક હતો. અમુક સંઘમાં શ્રી રામચંદ્ર સુરીશ્વરજી મહારાજ સાહેબનું જે પંચાંગ હતું એમાં 14 એક દિવસ હતી અને બીજામાં
11
એક 14
તારીખે,
બીજા દિવસ હતી. એટલે આ જે જ્યોતિષના ઇન્ટરપ્રિટેશનમાં જે ફેરફારો થયા છે those are inevitable because of the times that we live in. And so from that point of view as well, I'm not sure whether the 9 days of Ambil Holi always fall exactly on those days, but Chaitra ne Aso Mas, એ બે
ના
Ambil Holi શાશ્વત કહેવાય. Yeah.
ના એવી રીતે હું સમજી, કારણ કે આપણા પૂરા થાય પછી દિગંબરના શરૂ થાય પર્યુષણ,
બરાબર છે. Yeah.
એટલે બધાની ડેટ જુદી
બધાની
જુદી.
ડેટ્સ અલગ અલગ હોય છે. એટલે from that
એટલે
point of view,
જે મેઇન ગુરુ મહારાજ હોય એ લોકોએ નક્કી કર્યું હોય એમ મારું માનવું છે. બટ આઈ કુડ બી
you're right. And from that point of view also it's a Saswat, but I'm not absolutely sure that the Ambelni Odi જે બે શાશ્વતી છે exactly the same dates હવે અધિક માસ ને ઓછા માસ એમાં કઈ ફેરફાર આવતો હોય તો I'm not sure. You're probably right કે અશાશ્વત, this is an illustration of it being અશાશ્વત. So there are two more people who have raised their hands.
Okay.
Thank you, Pratibhaban. Yeah. કોણ છે બીજું? Feel free. સંદીપભાઈ છે. ઓકે, સંદીપ. સંદીપ, unmute yourself.
સંદીપભાઈ અનમ્યુટ છે પણ એનો અવાજ નથી સંભળાતો, બહુ ફેન્ટ છે.
સંદીપ. Okay. There's nothing in the chat.
No, there's nothing in the chat.
Okay. So I think, Sandeep, maybe you can ring me and we can have a discussion anytime you got my number. I think the same Sandeep that I know. But shall we end?
Yes, I think it's a good time to end now.
Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mira. Again, Michami Dukram, if I've said anything that is against the teachings of our great Tirthankars, Michami Dukram. Okay. See you all next Tuesday.